That's great. Staff is back 100%?
All right. It's good to see everybody again. Thank you guys for joining us. We want to do a quick roll call.
Sure. Virgil Chansey, Bianca Gillum, Bianca Gillum,
You're
Here.
unmuted.
Here.
Christina Horta,
I'm here.
LaDonna Jempson,
Here.
Melissa Nettie,
Here.
Adam Sinner,
Here.
LaShonda Tillman, Steve Wallace,
Here.
Karen Whitehead.
All right. Thank you, Rosalie. Appreciate that. Okay. Do we have any public comments, Rosalie?
We do not.
Wonderful. And forgive me, it's been a while. Do I need to open up the floor even though we don't have any public comments and then officially close it, or can we move forward?
Yes, sir.
We can move forward, but we have to make the motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to move forward in the agenda since we don't have any public comments.
I
Okay.
second the motion, LaDonna.
Okay, I'll take a roll call. Bianca Gillum,
Here.
Christina Horta, LaDonna Jempson,
Yes.
Melissa Nettie,
Yes.
Adam Sinner,
Yes.
Steve Wallace.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. All right. We're on item number 4 of the agenda, review of Measure M audit report. And I'd like to open the floor to Andrew Park.
Andrew, yeah, there you go.
Sorry about that. The technical difficulties. Too many screens open. That's the magic of working from home. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here again to present the results of the audit. It's going to be encore performance in comparison to the board presentation I did back in a couple weeks ago, or actually about a month ago or so. So just kind of prefacing in terms of what we do as your auditors for the Measure M audit. Our responsibility as it relates to the bonds is to audit the segmented financial statements directly related to Measure M. So when I say segmented financial statements, what I'm referring to is now Measure M funds are basically stored within the overall context of the district's financials, right? And Measure M is actually a pocket of the district's financials, right? So what we're doing is basically, instead of looking at the overall district's financial and auditing that, we're basically scaling down to a smaller degree and performing a more detailed review of the financials that are pertaining to Measure M, okay? That's one part of it, which is the first half of the audit report. And then the second half is actually what we would call a performance audit under government auditing standards, okay? This is basically synonymous with compliance audit, okay? All we're doing is simply answering the question of, did the auditee, in this case, Moreno Valley Unified School District, do this in accordance to what they were required to do? In this case, spend the funds in accordance to what the voters have approved in accordance with the ballot. So let's kind of toggle into the results of the audit here. Wow, I have way too many things open. Bear with me, I kind of have to regroup a little bit in the middle of something.
Andrew, do you want to share screen, or do you want us to share screen?
Yeah, it'd be great if I could kind of scroll through on my own. That way I don't have to hassle anybody to kind of flip the pages. And hopefully I don't share anything. Let's see.
Do you have the ability to share screen?
Okay, there we go. It's working.
Okay, good.
All right, can we all see this?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as I've mentioned, the audit report is segmented into two portions. First half is the financial audit, and second half is the performance audit. So let's just kind of go through the layout of the audit report. You know, as members of COC members, and I always tell the board members too, you don't necessarily have to understand the full information that's contained in here. You're looking for very specific things from an oversight responsibility, okay? So on any auditor's report relating to the financial statements, whether it's segmented or entity as a whole, you're always gonna see what we call the independent auditor's report. This is basically, what we're telling you is within the audit report, especially if it's a financial audit, what we're basically saying is the financial piece or the information that follows after this page we basically do not take ownership of it. This is basically our client, Moreno Valley Unified School District, and it's really the responsibility of the district to prepare the financial statements. Basically what we're saying is, this is the only page where we take ownership, and this is our opinion in terms of what the financial statements look like, okay? And on any auditor's report, publicly traded, nonprofit, governmental entity, you're gonna see this page. What you're interested in is this part here, okay? So what actually was the verdict? What was the auditor's opinion as it relates to the financial statements as of June 30, 2020 in this case, okay? Now, before I get into the results, I'm gonna use some technical definition within the scope of the audit world. We basically render a professional opinion after performing an audit, and there's a varying degree of assurance, if you will, okay? Highest level of assurance being an unmodified opinion, followed by a qualified opinion, and lastly, an adverse or a disclaimer of an opinion. Now, what does that all mean? So to put it into perspective and to kind of overly simplify this, in our profession, we have a standard language, okay? If we use that standard language, it's what we would call an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. Now, from that standard language, if we have to modify because we don't agree with something, that's what we would call a qualification or an adverse opinion. What you see on this page is a standard language for an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. Now, whenever you see an auditor's report and you see the sentence, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. This is what we would call an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. In other words, the financial statements that were presented to us to audit, once we perform the audit, we are in agreement with the numbers that, or the financial statement information that was presented to us after the conclusion of the audit, okay? Had there been any issues with the financial statements that was presented to us, and we couldn't come to a conclusion as far as the differences are concerned, we would basically start here, and then we would have an accompanying paragraph just underneath it by saying that, well, okay, with the exception of, let's say your accounts payable was off. With the exception of accounts payable, we're in agreement with everything else. But we would basically point out very specifically that the financial statements are okay with the exception of accounts payable. And that's what we would call a qualified opinion, okay? Because we kind of deviated from our standard language of a clean opinion. You're gonna see every now and then an emphasis of matter. Now, this emphasis of matter is basically pointing out the fact that the audit report and the financial statements presented in here is not representative of Moreno Valley Unified District as a whole. Again, this is a segmented audit of your building fund, and that's all we're pointing out here. Okay. So again, I'd like to emphasize that from a financial statement audit perspective, our opinion was a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion. Now let's just kind of go over the general scheme as far as the financial statements are concerned. So the district, as far as Measure M funds are concerned, total assets ending June 30, 2020 was $50.3 million, which was offset by a liability of $5.1 million. And when you take that into account, your residual amount that you could obligate ended up with $45.2 million, okay? So now what this number represents, $5.1 million, this is a liability as of June 30th, okay? These are basically bills that you haven't paid, but you know that you have to pay, right? It's just, you just didn't pay it, so you owe it as of June 30th, okay? Now let's move on to the income statement aspect of it. Now, what the income statement does is it summarizes the income and expenditures for the entire fiscal year, which is comprised of July 1st through June 30, 2020. Okay, July 1st, 19 through June 30, 2020. So just to kind of give you in terms of just an overview, total revenue that was generated as a result of the funds sitting in county treasury. Now, when the funds aren't being spent, it's basically sitting in county treasury, and what they do with that money, we're talking $50 million here. What the county treasury does is they take that money and they invest it in basically all sorts of investment securities that are extremely safe, and they generate interest, okay? And as a result, bulk of this revenue coming in is gonna be from money being generated or investment income that's being generated by the funds sitting in the county treasury, okay? And other local revenues could be a little bit of everything. It could be rebates, refunds, right? And it's not that much, so I wouldn't worry too much about this, but I would say the bulk of the money is really as a result of investment income being generated from the county treasury. Next comes expenditures. Now, as you can see, we've basically categorized it to all sorts of categories, right? And as far as these categories are concerned, we don't come up with this. This is basically dictated by what we would call a standard account code. And that all of that is driven by California Department of Education, right? So as far as how this is categorized, we just report what's directly on the general ledger, right? What's important is that are these numbers in total? We're auditing this number in total. Is this a correct number from an expenditure standpoint? So as you can see, for the 19-20 fiscal year, the district expended $22.5 million, okay? So just to kind of summarize, 1.3 million in revenues, 22.5 million in expenditures. The district began the year with $66.5 million, okay? As a result of income and expenditures, we had a net change of $21.2 million, which resulted in ending available funds of $45.2 million, okay? That's just a quick summary of the financial activities that took place. Let's move on to this section here. Okay, so this audit is basically, it falls under what we would call government auditing standards. Because Moreno Valley Unified School District is a governmental entity, we have to perform an audit in accordance with governmental auditing standards. Now, what exactly is this? Now, most of the public would look at us and they basically look at us as number crunchers. But more importantly, yeah, we are number crunchers. I'm not going to deny that. but more importantly, we're basically process auditors, okay? And what government auditing standard tells us to do is, prior to us going and looking at the numbers themselves, they basically require us to look at the underlying procedures which drives the numbers. What are the background procedures or what we would call internal controls that are in place to make sure that if you process a dollar in your financial system, does that dollar get reported as a dollar on the financial statements themselves, okay? And I would say about 60–70% of our work is really just driven by understanding, testing, and just kind of looking at the background internal controls that are in place to make sure that the financial statements are being reported accurately, okay? And as it relates to our responsibility for this requirement, we're required to report any type of deficiencies that we find as a result of our evaluation and testing. I am happy to report that we do not have any issues with the district's internal controls as it relates to the financial reporting component of Measure M funds. Okay. Now let's move on to the second half of the audit report. Again, it's a bit complicated to read this report because it's actually a two-part audit report. So second half of the audit report, I think what you want to focus in on as COC member is really just to kind of see the last pages where the findings are reported and what procedures were taken to test the expenditures. Again, just to kind of overly simplify what we do, we're basically looking at samples of transactions, right? And comparing that to what the voters have approved by saying, okay, well, we voted on this project. Is the district spending bond proceeds in accordance to what the voters have approved? Really, it's a yes or no type of thing, right? And if you look at the ballot measure, it's rather broad. So you have to be kind of out there to just really deviate from that, to be honest with you. And I've had some instances historically, but again, we're talking about pretty extreme cases where it deviated completely and it just stood out like a sore thumb. But for the most part, it's just really hard to deviate from the ballot approved measures. So starting the 1920 fiscal year, what the feds basically told us to do under a performance audit is for us to outline exactly what we do, okay? Now, if you go to the methodology section, we basically talk about step-by-step in terms of how we arrived at the results, okay? Now, just to kind of summarize this, we basically look at, so as far as our samples are concerned, right? I think what's important is if there are 100 samples, right, at a given, in the entire fiscal year, hypothetically speaking, right? You want to make sure you sample from that entire population of 100 transactions, not during the middle of the year when there's only 20 or 30 transactions, right? So we kind of describe our sampling methodology, which incorporates all transactions that took place of July 1st, 2019 through June 30, 2020, right? We sample there. And then from a sampling methodology, we specifically describe what we did. So under C here, we basically say, so from a sampling standpoint, we stratify the population. So we take your total expenditures that were incurred, and using a 2% benchmark, we select all transactions that are 2% and above. Okay, now what does that mean? So basically, let's say you had 100,000 in expenditures. Any expenditures within all the transactions that are 2,000 and above, we would select as our sample. Now that's the upper tier, or the upper spectrum of our sampling. The remainder of the population, we do what's called random sampling. Again, just as a reminder to the COC members, auditors do not look at 100%. Okay, there's a science behind this, and we use what's called random sampling. Okay, with some bias in here. The bias here is a 2% and above. Okay, and that's how we would sample. And what exactly are we doing? We're basically getting all the backup and then comparing it with the ballot measure and basically determining whether or not it falls within the ballot measure that the voters have approved. Okay, yes or no type of thing. No grays, just either yes or no. Now, based on our sampling methodology, we selected transactions totaling $4.1 million out of 22.5. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's not that much, but again, there's a science behind this. And when you look at any type of statistical information, if you're sampling a city of LA, you're not going to sample every single people that are living there for COVID or for whatever. It's always going to be a random specific sampling targeting very specific criteria. And that's what we do. As it's a statistical science. That's what we do, right? So if we randomly sampled, and if we come up with the result, it should be representative of the entire population that we're looking at. And that's the approach that we're taking, okay? So without getting into too much detail here, but once we get the information, again, we look at it, right? And then we basically form a conclusion. Did the district spend the bond proceeds in accordance with voter approved ballot measures, okay? And then conclusion is where you want to look, right? As you can see here, based on the testing performed on all of the sample transactions that we pulled, we did not identify any transactions that deviated from voter approved ballot measures, okay? The district, in our opinion, is spending bond proceeds in accordance with what the voters have approved and wanted. And then as a COC member, you always want to glance at the following last two pages. That's where the findings are, if there are any findings. And as I've mentioned, the conclusion indicated that there were no findings, so you shouldn't see anything here. Okay. Yes, that was a rather lengthy conversation, but do you have any questions for me as far as this audit is concerned?
This is LaDonna. I do have a question. If you page back down or up, there was something that said about transfer outs, including transfer outs. What does that mean? With the 4 million out of the
Oh,
22
okay.
million?
So districts projects are not necessarily all funded by your bond funds, right? You have multiple funding sources. It could be unrestricted contribution. It could be from your Office of Public School Construction, your state funding, right? There's gonna be transactions that are kind of all over the place funding, whatever the project needs to be completed. Now, as far as kind of identifying transfers in and out, you're gonna have a lot of transactions that are going in and out, right? Once the transaction goes out of your bond proceeds, they no longer become subject to bond proceed compliance. Why? Because that expenditure wasn't incurred, right? It was basically, let's say you spent 100,000, and next thing you know, you're like, oh, well, if the district decides, well, that 100,000 really should have been charged in Fund 35, which relates to state funding, right? Once that's moved out, it no longer becomes subject to bond compliance. Conversely, if you bring in something from Fund 35 into 21, right? Now it becomes part of Fund 21, which is your Measure M funds, right? Now it becomes subject to your bond proceed testing, your compliance requirement. If the transfers in comes in, we look at that to make sure that whatever the objective was that was initially spent out of, let's say, Fund 35, which has to do with state construction funds, does that money still meet the requirement of bond proceeds? Okay. Conversely, when it transfers out, we no longer care about that money because it's not charged to the bond proceeds. Does that kind of answer your question? But
It does, thank you.
Basically, we take everything into consideration, ins and outs, and directly charge to the ballot measures. Great question. Any other questions for me that I could try to address?
Not hearing any. I want to thank Andrew Park for presenting that to us. There's a lot of information in there, but the ultimate results seem positive. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Senator, I think you need to make a motion to accept the report.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the report as presented?
I can make a motion to accept the report as presented.
Thank you. In a second.
Motion?
Was that a second?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'll take roll call. Do I take roll call again, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Bianca Gillum,
Yes.
Christina Horta,
Aye.
LaDonna Jempson,
Yes,
Melissa Neddy,
Aye.
Adam Sinner,
Yes,
Steve Wallace.
Yes.
thank you. All right, going back to the agenda, I don't want to deviate too much, but did we miss approving the meeting minutes from our last meeting? Should that have been on the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Can we take a moment to do that now before we go to item number 5? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. And Rosalie, would you mind bringing up the meeting minutes for us to see? I know that you've given them to everybody through email and then given them the opportunity to pick them up. So I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes, but I'd definitely like to take a moment to go through those and review them. And once everybody feels comfortable with them, I'd like to look for a motion to approve them.
Sure, we will get those up.
Okay.
Chair Adam, I have reviewed the minutes and I'm comfortable making a motion to accept them as is.
Excellent. Is there anybody else that would like to second that? Because I know I've also had an opportunity to review them.
I also have reviewed the minutes and I offer second.
All right, wonderful. Thank you both, and thank you, Rosalie. Sorry for putting you on the spot to pull those up,
That's okay.
but thank you. All right, I'd like to move on to item number 5 on the agenda and ask Mr. Sammer to provide his.
I'm sorry, do we do the roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, Rosalie, would you mind doing the roll call again, please? To approve the meeting minutes.
Yes. Bianca Gillum,
Here.
Christina Horta,
Aye.
LaDonna Jempson,
Aye.
Melissa Neri,
Aye.
Adam Sinner,
Yes.
Steve Wallace.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Sammer, for reminding me.
Thank you.
All right, Sammer, it's your turn. If you'd like to give us your overview.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sinner. Good afternoon, CBOC board members, cabinet, and staff. Thanks for your time and sharing the updates with you for the Measure M, our April 14th CBOC meeting. And we provided a report that we distributed to all of you before the meeting. And I'm glad to go over the report quickly. As a quick overview, we, as a district, on November 4, 2014, we had the citizens of the living under the jurisdiction of the Mourinho Valley Unified School District authorized and approved the Measure M bond through the Prop 39 statutes, and it was for $398 million. And it was solely for the construction, rehabilitation, safety, and so on and so forth. The details are in front of you. We have issued 2 series of Measure M bonds so far. The first series is Series A, which was for $103 million, and the second Series B, which was for $56 million. The remainder is $239 million, and the district is intended to issue the third series soon. We will give you updates in the future as soon as that happens. Measure M financial summary. Basically, there are all the figures in front of you represents how much money is spent on Measure M projects and the details of these projects as you can see them. And when we need to talk about the plan and how we spend the remainder of Measure M funds, we have to talk about the 23 or 25 sites that we came up with. As a matter of fact, we had to identify those modernization projects eligible for receiving state grants. So we are using our Measure M as the matching funds for the state grants to make us able to modernize these sites. And these are the sites listed in front of you, ranging from elementary to middle to high school sites. And the way we did the work is basically we hired 8 architects through competitive process and reviewed their proposals. And we selected those 8 architects from a pool of 20 to 30 architects. And once we got those 8 architecture firms approved through the board, we started the work to hold meetings together with the architects and basically get the design started by going through the master plan that was done back in 2013 when the Measure M was approved by the community. And when we had that master plan identified for each school site, we went to each individual school site. We walked it with the principals, the staff, the custodians, everyone at the school site. So we came up with the needs, the actual needs above and beyond the master plan. And we were stunned to see the needs and the master plan requirements way exceeding our budget. So we distributed and categorized those needs into 3 categories, basically. The code and safety category, which talks about all the code compliance items that we need to do. Then the maintenance and operation items that we need to do. And the third item and the third category was the transformational category, which is what we're going to do to the site to transform it to represent the Century 21 education. After that, we started the design. We got the design submitted to DSA, which is the Division of the State Architect. That's the department which we as a state department take our plans to them. We cannot take our plans to the city, as you know, because we are not under the city jurisdiction. We are under DSA jurisdiction. So once DSA office approves our plans, we submit them to the to the Office of Public School Construction, OPSC, and that's another department of the state. I could tell you all 25 sites submitted to the OPSC folks, and we're waiting for the state to issue a future bond. The previous bond measure failed last year, measure 13. It failed in 2020, unfortunately. So we're hoping that we will have a new measure in 2022. And if that is successful, we will be able to receive money from the state for our projects, and we can use our Measure M bond matching to construct these projects. I will give you an idea and start with the Moreno Valley High School project and tell you what the status with the high school project utilizing Measure M funds.
Sammer, this is
Yes.
are you intending to share your screen?
Is it not shared?
No.
Thank you, John. I went so far and nobody told me my screen was not shared. Do you want me guys to show you what I did, what I said so far?
I kept playing with my settings to figure out why I wasn't seeing the presentation.
Yeah, that was the first page that I was referring to for the total bond measures and how we, how much we sold, and then this was the second screen that I was trying to mention regarding the 35 projects where the Measure M fund allocated. And then these are the 25 sites that we identified that will receive funding from the state. So we're going to use our Measure M to be the matching funding for it. This was the phase 1 and phase 2 plan that we implemented to come up with a successful plan for modernization of all the campuses that are eligible to receive money from the state. And I started with Moreno Valley High School site now. And I can tell you that the first project we did for Moreno Valley was building J at the beginning. Then we built the 2-story building, building S. Then we modernized building L and the gym. And then after that, we did buildings M and N. We barely touched building H. That was all phases 1, 2, 3. Then phase 4, which is completing right now. It's all actually completed this last week and handed over to the school, which was building B, C, D, E, F, with the exception of building B. C, D, E, F were handed over to the school again, and they were completed. Building B is still under some seismic retrofit that was identified by DSA recently that we need to complete before we finalize and finish the building. So that's that. Then the last part of it, which is the Performing Arts Center, which has the biggest performing arts center in Moreno Valley City. It has a theater that holds 624 seats and has band, choir, and we also music. We have a dance room that is part of building B, the back side of building B, which is going to be integrated with the Performing Arts Center here. So we had some site upgrades. We put paving and concrete in front of the Performing Arts Center and so on and so forth. I will show you some pictures for the modernization of phase 4. And these pictures that show classrooms and lab. You can see the classrooms are almost done here in this picture. That was an old picture basically, but you can see the new classroom look wonderful. And the areas between the classrooms look almost brand new. This is the Performing Arts Center that I was explaining a few minutes ago. And we created some parking spaces in front of it with concrete areas and asphalt combo. And this is a rendering of the Performing Arts Center when it will be done and completed. We have installed the glass wall on the drama and choir areas here. And we're in the process of finalizing the building from inside. I have some pictures that shows you. This is actual picture. This is the glass wall, the curtain, the glass curtain wall that was installed. This is the front of the Performing Arts Center. This is another picture from outside for the curtain wall. You can see the stage area here where the forklift working under the catwalk. This is the top catwalk that people will walk on it when they need to maintain some stuff on the top. And these are some old pictures where the Performing Arts Center theater part of it was under construction. We poured the concrete for the seating area there. And this was the stage before it got completed. Again, these are some good pictures from inside, from the stage, shooting towards the seating area, showing you the roof trusses and the corrugated sheet metal under roof side. The other project is the Canyon Springs High School project. And we started with the first phase, which is the two-story building that was done recently and handed over to the school. And then we also did the modernization of the gymnasium building. We took, after the gymnasium, we took building A, the biggest classroom building, and also has the admin classrooms, admin space there. So we relocated the admin into the parking lot where the highlighted area on the parking lot here, under with my mouse hovering over it right now. That's the admin existing, I mean, the temporary admin location, the interim. And then we started modernizing building A. We're going to show you some pictures from inside building A under modernization. And after building A, it's completed and handed over to district, which we expect around August of this year. Or September, we're going to start building D, the science building. And by finishing building D, the modernization program will be done. We also are doing the new multipurpose room. Imagine that site doesn't have a multipurpose room. So we're doing a new multipurpose room here and a drama classroom. Band, multipurpose room and a band classroom here. So after we finish everything, we're going to be taking the portables that are located, currently right here in this area. We're going to remove them, and we're going to restore that area into tennis courts. Basketball and volleyball courts, as well as a pad for marching. The JROTC program there. So that site will also have significant transformation from what it used to look before into the kind of up to Century 21 High School site that has all the upgrades it needed to have. And keep in mind, before that, we did the stadium here, which we shared with you before, a brand new athletics stadium with all kinds of buildings, concession stands, and bleachers and parking spaces. We also relocated the tennis courts to the back of the school site. So again, that was significant for Canyon. And these are some facts about the two-story, which cost $23 million, completed March 2021. This is the rendering for the building when we started the work. And these are the actual pictures from the building after it is completed. So now you're looking at the pictures for the actual building after it is completed. And we will be happy in the near future when COVID restrictions relax a little bit. We could take you for a walk and visit to these campuses and show you all these improvements. The community and the staff and the students will all be proud and happy about their two-story building. It has 24 classrooms, 16 regular classrooms, and 8 science labs. These are the science labs with the islands in the middle and 360-degree instruction on the sides. So that's a new Century 21 cutting edge term. And this is, these are another picture from the two-story showing you the hallways of the building and the building from outside as well. As I said, it's nicely looking building. This is the gymnasium project at Canyon Springs. It's about 4.8 million and it's also done March 21st, also completed. This is how the gymnasium look. Another bright, nice looking improvement. When you look at it inside, the bleachers have the logo on one side and have the school letters on the other side. Basically, these are retractable bleachers, so you can retract them. They open and close, electrically speaking. This is the multipurpose room sheet, which is $18.5 million project. We started with the multipurpose room project. This is steel building. That's an old picture, shows you the slab on grade. And then we started doing the structure, steel structure for the building. Right now, we started the framing and drywall inside the building. It's totally different. And these are some pictures from inside the building as well. You can see nice improvements with the steel studs around the building that forms the shell for the walls, from the outside walls. And the HVAC guys started installing the ducting, the hangers for the ducting. And as soon as the ducts and the hangers done, people will start putting insulation, drywall, and so on and so forth. This is a rendering for the multipurpose room when it's get done and completed. This is the modernization sheet for the buildings A and D. We bid those two projects under one bid, and the bid for these two projects was $23.3 million. These are some pictures, actual pictures from the work that is taking place right now inside. And you can see the people working inside the building. The ceiling's removed. When you remove the ceiling, you will run into all kinds of interesting stuff, especially for existing buildings. Some of you who experienced that know what I'm talking about. Mourinho Elementary School, yes, well, this is not a Measure M project. It is a Fund 40 project, but there are a couple expenditures for Measure M that relates to this project. At the beginning of the project, related to consultants that we had to hire them before Fund 40 was approved. So we are obligated to show you this sheet because there are at least 2 expenditures that are Measure M related, but the remainder of the site is funded through Fund 40. This is going to be a nice elementary school on Nason between Cottonwood and Alessandro. Very nice site, as I said, design well thought. We had the communities contributing in the design, as well as some individuals from the school district under the jurisdiction and direct supervision of the CBO and the superintendent. We had the bid open. Actually, we had lease-leaseback contractor on this project, and the lease-leaseback contractor opened bids with his subcontractors, and we had the GMP approved last night by the board. So we're going to start construction late April, beginning of May. This is a rendering for the site and how it looks when it gets done. This is a rendering looking at the school from Nason Street, looking south. No, I mean south, looking southeast on the first picture. This is back of the school. When you see some playgrounds and kids playing. This is the beauty about this design. It's all encompasses under one roof, under one building. So this whole school is one building, and this is the main portion of where the admin and the classrooms. There are some classrooms on both sides. The admin, the multipurpose room will be here with the kitchen and multipurpose room, and also a band room here on this side. And the remainder of the buildings, classrooms are distributed inside the campus. These are some terminologies and acronyms that we utilizes when we talk fast. Maybe we didn't say SFP, so that's School Facility Program Grant. So just in case we miss some terminologies, these are the definition of what these things mean. And with that, I will hand it to the next item on the agenda, where Tarana is going to walk us through the expenditures. And after Tarana, I could show you the pictures of the completed projects as well that we worked on. Thank you, Mr. Sinner. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take.
Samar, do you want to mention anything about the CTE projects that are ongoing at the schools and how much money we've gotten from that program?
Thank you, John. We did not start the CTE at all school sites, but some of them, yes, we did. The welding program and the stagecraft at Moreno Valley High School, these were approved by the state. By the way, we were successful in targeting career tech educational grants that it's very competitive, and the scoring of these grants very, very competitive. But we worked hard with our consultant, with our folks here, with community members to find good programs and good contributors in the community to help us put these successful grants in place. And we have filed and got approved on all the grants we submitted. We had about 6 grants submitted, and all of them got allocated. We have welding grant. By the way, the grant that is modernization, it will receive 1.5 million, up to 1.5 million. The new construction will receive up to 3 million from the state. So we were successful in getting the welding modernization approved, and the money, it's in the way. However, we finished the work through Measure M, but we're going to be paying ourselves when we get the 1.5 million back from the state. The stagecraft for the Performing Arts Center at Moreno Valley High School, we received $3 million from the state. That is going to augment our money there. We have applied and got authorization, and we're going to get the money soon for cosmetology program at Marsh Mountain. And we're going to also use Measure M as a matching fund to do that kind of barbershop kind of experience there at Marsh Mountain High School. We also submitted and approved, and we will get the money for cybersecurity program at Canyon Springs High School. And it will be, and it is right now one of the most successful programs in the state, and it's nationally recognized actually. And the program is very attractive for students. The other programs, we received funding for 2 health programs at Vista del Lago High School. We got authorization, and we're going to get the funding, and we're going to build a 2-story medical building at Vista del Lago High School that will help the students to get to the medical program early on. And we created a relationship between the school side and other medical entities around us, like UCR and university, Riverside Hospital as well, people. So we're working on that right now, and we're in the design phase of that program. Any other programs that I didn't list, John? Can you remind me about?
Culinary Arts at...
oh, that's right. the culinary art at Mourinho Valley High School. Thank you for the reminder. So we actually got the grant approved as well, and we're gonna get the money from the state, but we had the design done. The bids are open and they were approved last night, and we're gonna get the culinary art building installed there. And it's gonna be north of the Performing Arts Center at Mourinho Valley High School. So, you know, we were so blessed and lucky to get all these grants, and we're going to be utilizing the funding from the state and match it with the Measure M funds to continue these programs and finalize them. Thank you for the reminder, John. Appreciate it. Any question for us? For me, sorry. And Tarana is going to get her own role.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
I'm sorry, Tarana, hold on before.
Can we go back to page 1, Samar, if possible?
Yeah, Adam, back to you on the items. So you can go to the following item on the agenda.
Okay. Just going to page 1 really quick. I just, a quick connection between the report you saw from the auditors and this report. All of this information derives from the district's financial system and the funds that they have with the county, with the Riverside County Office of Education. We track all of those funds to the from a micro level to the macro level. So when he was talking about the transfers in and the interest and all of that, that's all captured in this chart. But behind that is all the data that goes back cumulatively from day one when the first bond series was issued and every penny that has been spent. So their report is year to year. This report is cumulative, and you're getting all this information in different ways so that you have all of the checks and balances for the Measure M funds. So just quickly referring to the bar chart on the right, it shows to date the district has generated 162.4 million. That includes 4.9 million of interest and just miscellaneous rebates or transfers and so forth. And then on the right-hand side, you have the chart of showing 142.4 million of expenditures. And as of March 19th, when this report financial data was updated, you had $20 million in the bond fund remaining. And as Samar mentioned, additional funds as they are generated from the remaining authorization will be added in here, and you will have a cumulative tracking of all of this. But the good news is all of this information matches back to the audit report as well as the district financial system. Now, going back to the backup, in addition to that, you have all kinds of backup for this program that we've been providing you. This backup in this section provides you with a brief summary, and this again is cumulative of how much has been spent each school site. So that quickly, if you want to take a look at from the institution, lots of projects and lots of projects that have been completed at each campus. What was it exactly that was completed at each campus? So you could see at Armada, the 2-story building, the modernization, that is so long ago because, but if somebody asks a question, how bond funds were spent, you can quickly refer to each building and it's alphabetical. You can go in and you see the various projects that were completed since inception to date, okay? And for the purpose of additional checks and balances and review, we have provided you backup for each fiscal year for the expenditures that are current, because it gets so big. If we were to include all the expenditures for the funds that have been spent, this is going to be, an extremely large report. So what we do is we limit this to each fiscal year. So here you have backup information for every project, the vendors for each project, and what they did. So you have all of that information, and that again is summarized because behind this is all the warrants and details for each individual payment. So keep in mind that there are balances. All of that is being checked against the district's records at any given time. If you need any level of detail, it's there for you. But this is just a summary of the current expenditures as well as cumulative expenditures for the district's bond program.
So do you guys have any question for Tarana before I review the completed projects?
The only thing I wanted to mention is that we separated the completed projects from the active projects because that section was getting very large with all the wonderful work that the facilities and business department have undertaken. And because of the pictures and so forth, it was getting a very big file to email you guys. So we've separated it into a separate book, and as projects are completed, they will be moved over. So you have the active project section separated. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Sinner, do you want us to go through the completed projects?
Yes, actually, I would love to see them.
Okay, thank you. So you can see on your screen the completed projects as of April 2021, the ones that we started working on. Back in 2016, June 2016, we finished the Armada two-story classroom building, and it cost us like $8.26 million, 12 classroom building, two-story, Armada Elementary School. Also finished the two-story the Edgemont Elementary School, 22 permanent buildings, library, 30 classrooms actually, 30 classrooms, and 22, the demolition of 22 permanent buildings that was done. Then we replaced them with 30 classroom building, multipurpose room, and playgrounds and library. It's also state of the art. If you go inside, you see the finishes. I bet some of you, we had the opportunity to visit that building, and it was completed in May 2018. It cost us almost $30 million, approximately 21. We also finished the two-story classroom building, which has 30 classrooms at Mourinho Valley High School, and it cost us $13 million, and we finished it in December 2017. Also finished the Serrano Elementary School, that was also part of Measure M. And it has 8 classrooms, a two-story building that with 8 classrooms in it. Badger Springs Middle School kitchen renovation. We have all the middle school kitchen renovations done at that time. Badger Springs, 773,100,000, June 17. Mountain View finished in March 17. It was 738,000. Palm Middle School finished in June 17, 657,000. Vista Heights Middle School, June 17, it was 741,000. Also, we talked about the Canyon Springs High School athletic stadium. It cost us about $22.4 million. And it was done in October 2018. This is kind of a picture of the stadium again. And Vista Heights Middle School satellite parking we did to provide additional parking for the Canyon Springs High School staff, and connected the 2 campuses with a meandering walkway through the West Bluff Park. Valley View High School baseball, softball and basketball done back in September 2018, and it was completed. Also, the replacement of the field and track for all the rest of all the other high schools, Vista del Lago, Valley View High School, and Mourinho Valley High School were all completed. So this is Valley View High School, was done in June 2018. I mean, October, we finished it 18. This is portables, portable projects. We installed portables at 5 elementary schools, and these are the portables that were salvaged, modernized, and repurposed, and we put them at 5 elementary schools. This is the gymnasium at Mourinho Valley High School, modernization, and we modernized it completely with locker rooms, I mean. Vista Heights Middle School, we put rolling gates there. Vista del Lago High School, field and track replacement with synthetic. Another picture for it. This is Moreno Valley High School. These are not renderings, these are actual pictures. I'm sorry, this is the actual picture. This was the rendering. This is the actual picture here. We did a vestibule area by enhancing the security on at least 5 elementary schools, sorry. And we enhanced the security. We let the people go to the vestibule area before they move into the site. And that's a security enhancement for these elementary school sites. You can see the vestibule area. As soon as you walk in from outside, you're gonna be checking with the admin building, and they're gonna buzz you to the site through these double doors. They work on buzzers.
Sammer,
Yes.
so that you don't have to go back, one page back on page 23. When I was looking at all the completed projects, this was the only one that had the comment, this project was competitively bid. It was awarded to the lowest bidders. Was there an issue or something that required that statement to show up?
No, there was no, all our projects are competitively bid and awarded. All our projects, as part of the requirement for doing public works, you have to have all projects competitively bid and awarded to the lowest responsive bidder. And when I say responsible, means he has the ability to finish the project supported by his financial documentation and no any statement from any place that he was barred of doing any project somewhere else. So that's the responsibility part of it. Then the responsiveness is bidding the project based on the documentation and the letter of the, based to the letter to the of the plans and specifications. So these are the two components that exist to consider a bidder that was lowest responsive bidder. So I can assure you that all our bids are competitively bid and they are all awarded to the lowest responsive bidder. With the exception for lease back. Lease back is also a competitive process. It's not a low bid process, it's a competitive, it's a best value, but it's also a competitive process. And it also has the same criteria, responsiveness and responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Great observation. We will fix it for the next round. Valley View High School gym modernization. We modernized the gym at Valley View. Was a $9.2 million project. It was completed in December 2020. This is how it looks right now. We also reconfigured the parking lot at Valley View High School and added more parking spaces, about 400 spaces added maybe. So the total became like 600 spaces. So we have a huge parking right now. And we had a solar program at 15 sites. And this is one of the sites that we had solar installed as well. After we completed the new parking lot, we put solar on it. And this is the new gymnasium that was, the new improvements on the existing gymnasium. And we painted the building from outside as well. And we are going to paint the entire site as we speak. We got the bid open and we're starting soon. This is another Paris Operations Center parking lot expansion. It's a $2.8 million project. We put a new electric yard. We consolidated all the scattered electric meters. We had about 5-6 meters in the area. We consolidated them into one big meter with a 3,000 amp panel and transformer. We basically did an asphalt extension on the northeastern side of the campus here, connected that with the rest of the campus and put the V gutter for the drainage. We had also worked on providing a new electric connection for the regen buses. as part of this project as well. We put a new ornamental metal fence around the Paris Operations Center area with some landscaping outside. And we're now doing the dedication of right-of-way with the city. And we gained more parking spaces. And this is also one of the sites that had solar. So after we finished, we asked the solar company to start, and they put the solar. So these are some pictures from the improvements. And this is our solar panels. This is Butterfield Elementary School bus parent drop-off that we completed in September 2020, and the cost of the project was $701,000 to comply with Title V and separate the bus drop-off from the parent drop-off areas, and created that nice improvement there. We have elementary school site fencing improvements. We changed and replaced all the fencings at our elementary school sites, except 2 or 3 of them, with the new chain link fence. So instead of the old 6 feet low fence, we put 8 feet high chain link fence with 1 inch mesh to make it hard for the vandal people to climb it. And we also replaced the old ornamental metal fence with a new ornamental metal fence. And we finished that project in December 2020, finished all these fencings around all the 20 sites. And with that, I am done with my report presentation for the completed projects, and back to you, Mr. Center.
Wow, thank you. I'm always amazed at the progress you guys make between our meetings. It's pretty amazing, and hats off to the entire business services division, because I know there's a lot of people involved, but you guys always seem to make great progress between our meetings. And I know I'm excited to take a tour of some of these facilities. So with that, I'd like to talk about our future meeting dates. So I have some meeting dates to propose to the group. August 18th.
Excuse me.
Sure.
We do have to accept and receive the report.
Thank you, Rosalie.
You're welcome.
Before that happens, Chair, I have a point of clarification that I wanted to ask Samer.
Sure.
So did I understand correctly that you stated that all the solar that's being placed onto the schools, none of it is Measure M monies?
Correct.
Okay. It's funny that we would address that, because I had a community member ask me that today. And I said, well, I will check and see for sure. So thank you for that.
So we have basically clarified that to community, to CBOC through meetings before, and informed you guys that the solar program, it is it's kind of a lease program, so to speak. It's called Power Purchase Agreement, whereby we hired a company to come and do their own investigation on their own dime, hire their own design firm and consultant on their own dime, do the DSA approval on their own dime, and do the construction on their own dime. And we're going to purchase the power from them at a much lesser rate. We were successful in negotiating the rates with them through a competitive process. Although majority of school districts, I can tell you, they are not required by law to do competitive process, but here at Marine Valley High School, we did a competitive process for the selection of the solar firm, and it was a 3-step process whereby we bid it publicly, and after we bid it, we did an interview to the shortlist, and after the interview, we did a written question and answers with the top 2 from the interview panel results. We identified the top 2, and we did the question answers with them, and that's how we identified the best and final candidate for the solar. And again, this is all money borne by the solar firm, and we're going to be paying as a school district rates to them fixed rate for 20 years to these solar firms for energy use, for electricity. And they are, by the way, responsible for the maintenance and vandalism of these solar panels. Very good question, Ms. Jemson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion to accept presentation?
LaDonna Jemson motions to accept the presentation.
And a second, please.
Steve seconds it.
Thank you.
Okay, Bianca Gillum,
Yes.
Cristina Horta. Cristina Horta,
Aye, sorry, I forgot to unmute.
LaDonna Jemson,
Aye.
Melissa Nettie. Melissa Nettie,
Aye.
Adam- Adam Sinner,
Yes.
Steve Wallace.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 7, future citizens bond oversight meeting dates. So I have 3 dates proposed for future meetings, and I'd like for you guys to consider these. August 18th, December 15th, and April 22nd of next year.
These dates, Mr. Sinner, that the CBO.
What days of the week do they plan on?
Sorry.
Let me look real quick. Sorry, I should have had that ahead of time.
Those dates are on Wednesdays.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then these dates are tentative for the superintendent's office and cabinet to also review and accept it. And then we will notify you if they accept those dates.
April 22nd is actually a Friday, April 22nd of 2022.
You can.
Do we want that to be that way?
No, we can definitely choose the Wednesday before that.
The
Yeah, we
20th?
typically have meetings on Wednesdays.
Yes.
The 20th is a Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, so let's start with August 18th. Is that okay for the committee? Does anybody have any objection to that date?
No objection.
No objection.
All right.
No.
Very good. Thank you. And like Samar mentioned, we're going to receive confirmation of those dates. So tentatively right now, let's shoot for our next meeting date of August 18th. All right, moving on to the next item. Any questions or comments from the members? Open the floor.
This is LaDonna. I really want to thank all the efforts of everyone, and I am so excited about Mourinho Valley High School's progress, especially the CTE classes. That is awesome, because I know that some of the other surrounding cities have been ahead of us in this area as far as providing, these opportunities. And I am really, really happy about hearing about this and the opportunities that we'll have in the future for our students. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jemson, for the comment.
Samar, this is Adam. I'd like to ask if the situation is better concerning COVID, can we set up a tour in the near future at one of our future board meetings?
Well, can we, tentatively speaking, consider August meeting date, the same date that we proposed, in case the restrictions are relaxed at that date? we can have it an in-person meeting, but also before the meeting, we can have a tour to the school sites that we showed you on the pictures, and then we could end in one of the multi-purpose rooms at one of the schools, and we have the meetings.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I know that's tentative,
Yes.
but let's keep that in the back of our mind and see if we can set that up.
Correct.
All right, great. Any other comments or questions from the committee?
I have a comment. This is Melissa Neri. I just wanted to thank everybody for everyone who has done a report. It's very detailed, and I admire your guys' detail in your reports. So I just wanted to give a thank you to everybody who has presented a report to the board. And excuse my camera for being off, but I had to start dinner.
That's
Well,
okay. We understand.
The report is a teamwork between Tirana and our staff. The work is basically wouldn't be done without the help of my boss through her work with the cabinet and superintendent to get us where we need to be with directions and what we need to have from tools and all that stuff. And then my staff who are working very hard to make sure that things are in order and the contractors are doing what they're supposed to do and everything is done properly, negotiated properly. And, you know, so it's a teamwork with everyone that you can see on this screen, basically.
Amazing work, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Neri.
Okay, if there are no further comments or questions, I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 4:56.
Thank you, everyone.